Hi, I'm Gary Smith, and the title of my discussion thread is Major George Washington's Special Mission to Deliver a Diplomatic Message to a French Commandant and Gather Intelligence and Conduct Reconnaissance of French Positions in the Ohio Valley, which would be done in the dead of winter. I'm using two primary sources from America's historical imprints as foundation documents for my talk. The first primary source is a published journal of Major George Washington's account of his mission. And the second primary source is a report made by Governor Robert Dinwiddie in the House of Burgesses Council regarding the findings of Major Washington's mission. Also, I'm using a secondary source that blends the two primary sources into the narrative. This is a biography of George Washington entitled Washington, A Life, written by Ron Chernow. The application of historical competencies is this was the beginning of the French and Indian War and George Washington's eventual rise to prominence in the colonies. Washington's special mission arose out of Britain and France's rival claims of huge territories that cover present-day Ohio and Indiana, along with parts of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie had received specific instructions signed by King George II himself that if the French were found to be building forts on land claimed by England, the French should be asked to depart, and if they refused to comply, they must be driven off by force. On October the 13th, 1753, Governor Dinwiddie and the House of Burgesses Council in Williamsburg, Virginia, commissioned 21-year-old Major George Washington with the special mission. Washington set out that same day. He made stops to pick up a French interpreter, a surveyor with experience in dealing with Indians, and 4 men from the backwoods. In mid-November of 1753, Washington and his party spent a week crossing the Allegheny Mountains through rain and snow. After crossing the Allegheny River, Washington met with Iroquois Indians to obtain intelligence about French activities. He also quizzed 4 French deserters. Also, Washington obtained an Indian escort from the Iroquois. After a 5-day journey in pounding rain, Washington and his party stopped at a trading post where he met a French officer, Captain Philippe Thomas de Joncaire, who invited Washington to dine with him and his French officers. The meal was well lubricated with alcohol, and Washington took advantage of loosened tongues to listen closely to the officers' claim of French intentions and location of their forts. After 3 days, Washington and his escort pushed on toward Fort Le Boeuf in unending rain and snow. And on December 11th, 1753, Washington reached the fort, which was located in what today is northwestern Pennsylvania, 15 miles from Lake Erie. This is where Washington's party started from. They started from Virginia, and they went up into Pennsylvania, northwestern Pennsylvania, that was 15 miles from Lake Erie, which is shown in blue. At Fort Le Boeuf, Major Washington met the French Commandant, Jacques Legardeur de Saint-Pierre. Washington gave the Commandant the message that the French must depart the Ohio Valley, and the French Commandant requested several days to respond. Washington took advantage of the delay by reconnoitering French positions. He counted 220 canoes that the French had assembled for military operations. On December the 4th, 1753, the French Commandant handed Washington a sealed message for Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie. In horrendous weather conditions, Washington's party retraced their journey to Virginia. In Williamsburg, on January 16, 1754, Washington handed Governor Dinwiddie the sealed letter from the French Commandant, which was politely worded in diplomatic language. Basically, the Commandant's letter said that he, a French officer, must obey the rules of his superiors, and he could not withdraw without an order from them to do so. Washington also provided the governor a map of Fort Le Boeuf and estimates of French military powers in the Ohio Valley. Washington distilled his 7,000-word journal into a report to the Burgesses' Council of Williamsburg, which was published in colonial newspapers, alerting the colonies to French intentions. Washington, at age 22, was commissioned as a lieutenant colonel for his special mission. Thank you very much.